Welcome to the Din Don Show.
And I'm Don, and we're here for some fun. So we're back amidst a bunch of video and audio mess ups. We actually we recorded this, which is the best season of Avatar, before this one, but the audio just didn't work very well, and we wanted to give you guys better quality. And we're still amateurs, so just work with us. We're still trying to figure out our mics. If you have any advice on what we can do, our brand that we're using is Fine microphone. It's good enough for what we're doing right now, but if you've worked with it before, let us know how to fix it. Let us know how we can become better with it. So
honestly, seriously, we are just trying to figure out things as we go. We're just really just trying to hope and kind of pray at this point that this audio is going to be as good as we want it to be. But I'd say let's just go ahead. Let's just start jumping in.
Let's jump in. So this episode is which season of Avatar, The Last Airbender, is the best? This is a really hard one to talk about, though.
No, this is a really hard one to talk about. I mean, let's just start off. Let's start off and condense the first three seasons, the 3 seasons, because there's only 3.
Well, you start off. You talk about season 1.
So season 1, you got Katang.
No.
Katang.
Well, yes. We're not there yet. We're not going to talk about it. Go ahead. Go.
All right. So
tell me what you're thinking.
I can't. So basically, you have Katara and Sokka. They're in a boat and they're just trying to fish and survive and help their village survive by catching food at this point. And in the meantime, they end up finding the Avatar, which is the last Airbender. Hence, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Their main goal is to get Aang to the North Pole so that he can study waterbending. The reason why he needs to study waterbending is because he needs to study all 4 elements, including air, so he can become a fully realized Avatar at that point. And the reason why he needs to do this is to stop the Fire Nation, because the Fire Nation has taken over probably a good 60 to 70% of the world at this point, and it's actually really scary because if they have full world domination, that's thrown the entire world off balance. It basically gets rid of all 4 nations, and it really shows.
It's just the world's in upheaval right now.
Yes,
and Aang needs to bring balance. Going off of that, season 1, you're also introduced to, I think, the overarching goal and threat of Sozin's Comet.
Yes.
A lot of people, I think we forget that season 1 is where we're introduced to Sozin's Comet, and it's not the first episode of Avatar we see. Sozin's Comet's like one of the 5th or 6th episodes. And that becomes the main focus is that Aang has to defeat the Fire Lord before Sozin's Comet. And then, of course, it ends with Aang going to the North Pole and becoming the giant kaiju catfish, or koi fish is what he really is. And you actually learn what the potential the Avatar has in the North Pole. So that's season 1.
Don't forget, you have the entire time, you have Zuko, who is the prince of the Fire Lord, chasing after Aang to regain his honor because he lost it during a meeting. Now, we don't want to go too much into that, because we just want to make sure we mainly want to focus on which season is the best at this point.
So that's season 1. Season 2, it's a continuation, of course, of after season 1, where after the events in the North Pole, Aang's purpose now is to try and learn earthbending. This is where you meet Toph, who is the blind bandit, who we talked about in the first episode of Avatar, or of the first episode, our episode talking about Avatar. You get it. And we talked about how she's blind, how she is one of the most powerful earthbender, and Aang is going to be taught by her. In that you also have Aang and Team Avatar losing Appa, who Appa is basically his animal spirit guide, who...
Not to mention their mode of transportation.
They lose Appa by Appa being stolen in the desert by some sandbenders. And then it leads the Avatar going to Ba Sing Se, where they're in Ba Sing Se, and they learn that Ba Sing Se is kind of under a dictatorship of the evil war a war general. He's a general.
No, he was actually this more along.
He's like the
He's
secretary
more
of,
like the secretary
of defense or secretary of war, if you're a history buff. And it's under a dictatorship, and eventually leads to the fall of Ba Sing Se, which
advisor. He's the advisor to the king. That's all he is.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
it's like Grima Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
In the Two Towers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got, of course, there's the fall of Ba Sing Se, which was pretty much the last stronghold of the Earth Kingdom and the last stronghold in the world. So now season 3. Season 3, I don't know why I do that. Season 3, of course, is a continuation of the second season. Why I say that, I don't know. But it's where after the events of Ba Sing Se, Aang is struck by lightning by Azula, the sister of Zuko. And
She's cray, by the way.
oh, she's crazy. Don't date her. She might be cute, but she nuts. But
on the crazy hot scale, she's a 10.
Yeah. No. But Aang died, but Katara was able to bring him back to life through waterbending healing. And the events of that are Aang, Team Avatar, preparing to invade the Earth, or invade the Fire Nation on the day of Black Sun, which eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take firebending away. Of course, that becomes a failure. They fail in that attempt, and of course, the rest of the season is them trying to figure out how they're going to defeat the Fire Nation and the Fire Lord. Zuko, who was the main antagonist, now becomes a friend to Aang and a team member of Team Avatar, and eventually ends Sozin's Comet, where Aang finally fights Fire Lord Ozai on the day of Sozin's Comet, which is a awesome episode series. It's amazing.
It's really probably one of the best fight scenes in all of, if you want to say cartoon history, Nickelodeon history, really just fighting history in general. It's probably one of the best fight scenes of all.
Yeah, and we could rave about it, but so those are condensed. I know we skipped a lot. There's a lot of details.
A lot of details we skipped, and I know we actually this is like the third recording that we were doing this, and we realized that we needed to condense a lot, so that we can actually fit it under 30 minutes, so that my phone doesn't decide to turn off.
Yeah.
But also too, we can't fit everything into one video, no matter how much we wanted to.
But if you do want us to talk more about our thoughts individually on each season, suggest that, and we would be happy to talk about it in a future
down below
day.
And hit that like button. We would love to see those comments, so just to see all those, to let us know that you guys want to know about that.
Okay. So what are the pros of each season?
So obviously season 1, it starts off everything. It literally it's the milk kind of a thing. Like we've been saying that a lot in these previous recordings, is it's the milk, and sets everything up, shows the potential of each and every character.
Right.
And
it's a lot of world building.
No, yeah, it really is. It's a world builder. I mean, you can't have it the first season without the other 2 seasons.
Right.
Well, excuse me, you can have the other 2 seasons without the first season. Sorry, I had that backwards. But not only it kind of one thing that I really, really like about the first season is it actually shows like hints of darkness. It doesn't throw it at you like, okay, here's the just bad guy and he's super, super bad. There are moments in the first season, and you can see this throughout the entire series of maybe not everyone's bad, but also not everyone is good.
Right.
And so now it's definitely fleshed out, definitely in the second and third seasons, as we were saying earlier. But that's probably what I would say is probably really well done in the first season. It really just stretches this, and it leaves room for improvement. That's where it leaves the second and third season to be like, okay, we've set it up, now go for it.
Yeah. I agree. There's a lot of good stuff, and I like it introduces a lot of the themes of what they want Avatar to be in the first season. Like especially how Din said about not everyone is necessarily good, and not everyone is necessarily bad. We can get into that later on when we talk about the themes of the seasons. I want to move on to what we like about second season.
Go for it.
as Din said, season 1 is the milk. I believe that season 2 is the meat. And it's called Earth. It's book 2, Earth, and I really think that that name fits because there's a lot of just I don't want to say it sets up a foundation because obviously season 1's the foundation.
Right.
But I think it just strengthens that foundation of Avatar.
Would you say that instead of the foundation, it's more of the frame at that point? Because in a house, you have to build the foundation first and then the frame.
I don't know because that, and I guess I don't know. That's a hard one because I'd even say the first season is the framing of the rest of the season.
Okay.
Because if you don't have because Sozin's Comet's in the first season,
right?
And that's really the frame. If there wasn't Sozin's Comet, there wouldn't be necessarily a drive.
Good point.
So that's a point, point counter for season 1 right here.
Ding.
In my opinion, though, I think that, and a lot of people I know, they love book 2 because of the stories in it. I feel like that one of the things that season 2 has going for it is that its focuses on its goals and then attaining the goals and the challenges in between. Like very first thing, Aang wants to get to Omashu to get to King Bumi, and King Bumi, who's going to teach him earthbending, and they find out that Omashu is taken over by the by the Fire Nation. And so trial there. They can't get to Bumi because the Fire Nation has taken it over. Well, Aang finally gets to King Bumi, and he reaches that goal, but then he finds out that King Bumi won't teach him earthbending. He needs to find someone else who is a better teacher who listens to the rock, who listens to the earth. So then the next goal is for Aang to find the earthbending teacher, who then is Toph. And then once they find Toph, I guess they don't really have a set goal. It's just learning earthbending, but eventually it turns into Aang loses Appa, which then the goal is to find Appa, which takes him to Ba Sing Se, which then turns into trying to talk to the Earth King about invading on the day of Black Sun. And it's just, there's a lot of goal progression.
Right.
And I think, and it's even got really good stories. I mean, there's a lot of, in season 2, there's a lot of relating certain things. Like there's the episode of the swamp where you see Aang have the vision of seeing Toph.
Right.
And it's a couple episodes later that they see Toph. That they actually find out, they see Toph, and it fulfills that point.
The foreshadowing of it.
Yeah, the foreshadowing. Or even in the Tales of Ba Sing Se, where Momo, this tale of Momo, where he finds the footprint of Appa, and it's just like, oh, that's a footprint of Appa. Why is it there? And then, of course, the next episode is Appa's Lost Days, and you find out that footprint is where Appa last stood before Long Feng kidnapped him.
Right.
And so there's just this really good story progression. Not to mention there's powerful bending. It focuses a lot on earthbending, of course.
And even expounds on earthbending to then invent metal bending at that point.
Yeah. Well, it even talks about where earthbending came from the Badger moles and all that, and even who were the first earthbenders. So I think season 2's got a lot of good stuff going.
And then in season 3, going forward from there, I mean, at that point, book Aang has to learn firebending, and so that's probably one of the things that's probably the best about season 3 because. Go ahead.
Actually, the focus his focus isn't learning firebending in the beginning.
Not in the beginning, no. It's actually to invade the Fire Nation, because you've got the Day of Black Sun, which is the invasion day, and which obviously fails. But then I love how Sokka puts it. It's like, well, what do we do now? And it's like, well, the new plan is the old plan.
Yeah. So, and then eventually, of course, and then Aang is able to finally get over his fear of firebending from when he hurt Katara back in season 1. And there's a lot of cool things, like you find out where firebending comes from is from dragons, and how Aang and Zuko learn that their inner fire is their goal and their desires, and I really like that. You've got Tales of Zuko, where they go to the Boiling Rock, where Sokka and Zuko go to the Boiling Rock. You've got the Zutara episode, where everybody hoped that Zuko and Katara would hit it off when Katara was going to get revenge. I think season 3 has the most realized bending.
Yes.
Because I mean, you have Aang, who's almost a fully realized Airbender or
Avatar.
Avatar, and of course at the end he becomes it. You also see Zuko finally have his own realizations. And I think that where season 2 really built and strengthened the story and kind of, I guess if you want to frame it, not even framing it, it's more like they put the brick around the building.
Okay.
And I think that the third season is putting the roof on it and making it the finishing touch.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that trying to put all like the furniture and furnishings in it.
So I think what it does is season 3, it just ties it up very well, and it leaves you with a good feeling story, a good powerful story, and even it just kind of settles everything and brings it all together.
Right.
So I think that's probably one of the best things of season 3.
No, I would agree with that. And season 3, it's really just fun to watch. It's a good season. It's really good to watch. It's really entertaining. Not that the other 2 seasons are not. I mean, even season 1 can be very slow at times, and I think that's probably where we should go. It's kind of like the cons.
What's the cons? Yeah.
At that point, because like season 1, it's slow. I mean, it's still very entertaining. Not as entertaining as season 3, which is the most entertaining of all of them. Yeah. I think we can agree on that.
I would think that there's a lot of season 3 is probably, that's hard because season 2's got a lot of really good stories too. I don't know.
But if you had to pick one of the 2,
let me think about that one for a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, I would agree. I think another thing for season 1 that has something going against it, kind of got a slow progression in the beginning, but it's a season 1, it's a pilot, it's always going to be slow, so you can't really hold it against that.
So it's a pro and a con at that point.
Yeah, it's a pro and a con because it's a pilot, and I don't know if it's really even a con. It's just the unfortunate thing of seasons, or the first seasons. I think that season 1, and it's hard because this isn't really a con either. It's just more maybe a nitpick, but season 1 doesn't have as powerful or as cool as Bending or as powerful as Bending. But I think part of that is because season 2 built upon season 1 and season 3 built upon season 2, where the Bending got more and more and more magnificent, and of course they had more and more of the budgeting to take care of that.
Honestly, at that point, they probably didn't even think about doing it that far. As season 1, they probably were more thinking of, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
Not how far can we push this?
Yeah. So those are a couple cons for 1. If you have any pros and cons, comment down below.
Please.
About each season. We'll, again, if we think they're if we think there's something, if you're worthy, if it's something we feel like we need to talk about, we'll bring it back up. Mm-hmm. Season 2, that's a hard one because season 2 is not perfect, but it's hard for me to pick out the bad things.
The only thing that I would say about season 2 that would be bad is it specifically when we meet Toph for the first time, not the spirit Toph in the vision, but like the actual first one where we meet the blind bandit. I feel like that whole episode was a little bit too quick. I feel like what they should have done, they could have broken that up into 2 episodes where you had the entire just not bending match, but they were how Aang is trying to find Toph at that point, and then once he finds her, he's actually just trying to like convince her at that point. And then the next episode, I feel like at that point she's leaning more towards leaving, but obviously her parents are just saying no. I don't know. That's just a thought that I've had about it,
and I would kindly disagree.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine that you disagree.
Because I feel like that episode, I'm gonna say it's just perfect how it is. Because to me, it's like I feel like it offers who Toph is. It gives a little bit of the tension, and it's a serialized episode. It's a 30-minute episode.
Right. I mean, like the whole series is 30 minutes each for every episode, except for when you have the multi-part episodes. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I watched it mostly on Nickelodeon, where they were actually showing where they had like hour or 2-hour episodes. Specifically, just when I say episodes, but it's really each episode just broken up, well, I should say smushed together in those 2 hours with less commercials and stuff like that.
Right. So I would just, maybe the one thing that I feel that season 2 might have against it, sometimes I feel like it can get a little long. When I because I've rewatched their Avatar almost twice, and watching season 2 again, what made it hard is that I just want to get to season 3.
Mm-hmm.
People might feel the same way about season 1. Is like, oh, I just want to get to season 2. I mean, I'll be honest. I got sick and tired of the episode where Azula, Ty Lee, and May are chasing chasing.
No, I completely agree with that.
That episode drove me nuts.
Oh my gosh.
I was happy to skip that one. Yeah, that one.
No, I completely agree with that one. There are times when it's kind of like the first season where it drags out more than it needs to.
That would probably be my one dislike I can name offhand right now, that episode, because it's just too long. I mean, and it ends good. Right. With like Zuko reuniting with Iroh, and they make a stand against Azula, but it's just the build up to that really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have a good episode right before that, which is Zuko alone.
Right.
And again, that adds a lot to it, where you find out the history of Zuko, and of course Zuko's mom, and why, and kind of why he grew up the way he is, and why he's different than the rest of his family. And it's got a great episode there.
I think that's pretty good. And to kind of like transition that into season 3, where you have Zuko, obviously this is definitely a pro, but like Zuko's story is even more fleshed out at that point. You really see the turmoil in him. I mean, you saw a lot of that in season 2, but then but that was a lot more, not necessarily under the surface, but with lack of a better word, under the surface.
Well, and I think the thing too is that Zuko was in season 2, he was coming to grips with realizing that maybe not being accepted back into the Fire Nation is what he
right.
Whereas he gets what he wanted being back in the Fire Nation, but it's not all cracked up as it's supposed to be. I think that is a really good dynamic, and I think that's, I'm going to say another pro, is that it focuses on Zuko a lot in Fire, and Zuko's story is highlighted maybe a little more than Aang's.
But I would say that possibly is also a con, because like obviously it's Avatar Airbender, and most of the time stories are focusing on the main character and its team, not necessarily a side character, which we don't know. Zuko is not necessarily a side character and actually turns into a main character. I mean, he technically was a main character throughout the entire story, but we didn't really know that.
Yeah. Well, and then I guess that brings up the other thing, because if it is a con that it's focusing on Zuko more than Aang, then that would be why, in my opinion, I think that story 3, though book 3 has a lot of good stories, but it's kind of like they went back to season 1, whereas the first one, like I said, there was a goal, they achieve it, move on to next goal, achieve it, and that was the story progression. There was always something they were fighting for. Season 3, the two things they're fighting for is the Day of Black Sun, the invasion, and then Sozin's Comet. Everything in between, and I said this on the last recording, and I guess I said this on the last recording, that it's kind of like filler, but it's just episodes happening up to that point. Right. And it's not like it's not like that every episode is based on them achieving their goal. It's more, we have the invasion, but this happens along the way, so let's continue it.
So in that case, let's break it down at that point. In your opinion, what's the best season?
So I'm gonna say two things. One, my favorite one to watch is probably season 3, because I like the powerful bending. Sozin's Comet is very emotional, and it just kind of ties everything up. And I think season 3 ties everything up very, very well. But there's something about season 2 where I think I like the story progression more. I like, and it took me a while to finally realize it, but I like how they have a goal, and every episode is working toward that goal, even if the goal changes, whether it's getting to Omashu, or finding Toph, finding Appa, getting to Bossing Se, getting to the Earth King. They always have a goal, and then a challenge gets in their way, and then they're able to push past it. And I think that makes it a more interesting story, because you have the conflict, and then you see them overcome the conflict.
Right.
Whereas the other two, though season 1 is a great frame, and you have Sozin's comment, and season 3 probably may have some of the best stories, and of course has more Zuko time, which who doesn't love Zuko? The stories are more on their own, not one big story of them trying to achieve a big goal.
No, I mean, I would definitely agree with you in that for season 3. I would definitely think it's entertaining parts of it. But in my opinion, I would have to go with season 1 because...
Which is shocking to me. The first time I heard him say that, it was really surprising to me.
And the reason why I say this is I've been saying this basically every single time, which is it sets everything up. I'm more of a lore person. I love to know the why and how behind everything. That's maybe just the IT person in me, but that's what I love, is I want to know how it works, why it works, and I want to know the potential of it. And that's what I see in season 1, because season 1 literally sets everything up. It's the milk before the meat.
Right.
And with that, it literally sets everything up to the point where it actually has a great foundation to build upon.
Right.
And that's what season 1 does. It shows everything to the point where, okay, let's build upon this now. Because in season 1, they set up kind of the parameters of bending, and then in season 2 and season 3, they
build up on it, and it just pushes the envelope. No, and that's a really good point.
Yeah, and that's probably what I love about it. And then at the very, very end of season 1, it shows Aang's greatest potential, which is, as we said,
the koi kaiju,
the koi fish kaiju, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and I love how they did that in the show. But that's just my opinion. These are our opinions.
Yeah, and we're not experts. We just have our own thoughts and our own opinions as we've been forming this. So, what's your opinion? Comment down below. Tell us what you think. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're right. Tell us we're beautiful. I don't know. You tell us. And of course, if there's anything that we missed that you feel like might be good to talk about, comment.
Please. Comment down below
and let us know, and if we think it's something we should bring up again, we'll bring it up again.
Eventually we want to bring people onto the show, and if we get enough likes, if we get enough comments, for example, pointing out other things, we'll bring other people in. We'll want to have more conversation about this, because I don't think this, in my opinion, I don't think this conversation is over. I think this is just beginning.
And I think our opinions can change along the way.
Oh, of course.
So, but if you want more of this, comment, like and subscribe, hit that bell so you can see when our videos come out again. We're hoping to get on a schedule. But until then, I'm Don.
I'm Den.
And we are here for the win.